You know what you're getting with Toyota's Hilux pickup, something that'll take whatever you can throw at it. An improved engine range now makes this one of the key contenders in this sector. Now, if you want a vehicle that's tough and pretty unstoppable for work and private use, it's hard to think of a better place to start your search than with Toyota's Hilux pickup. I mean, this after all was the vehicle that Jeremy Clarkson and Top Gear drowned, threw off a tower block and still drove home. It was also the one they chose for a round trip to the North Pole. It is, in short, a pickup trusted the world over to get the job done. With well over 12 million sales worldwide in over 164 countries, it's also Toyota's second best-selling model of all time. But it doesn't rule the UK pickup market, something the brand is keen to put right, having at last given this vehicle a mainstream engine with a class competitive output. Now, other issues, unsurpassed off-road ability, practical loading capacities and a car-like interior, had already been addressed when this generation version was first introduced back in 2005. The result is a package that promises to be tough to beat. Now let's start with performance, since that's the area around which most of the misconceptions that sometimes surround this model tend to lie. Now, this is largely Toyota's own fault, since they originally brought this generation Hilux to the UK market with 101 bhp output from its 2.5 litre D4D diesel engine that was frankly laughable compared to obvious competitors. Now, since then, this 2.5 litre unit has been boosted, first to 118 brake horsepower and more recently to 142 brake horsepower, and that's an output that's bettered at this kind of engine size only by Nissan's 171 brake horsepower Navara, or the top version of Mitsubishi's L200 with 176 brake horsepower. Now, if you want to match that, then you need the 169 brake horsepower 3 litre D4D diesel engine that I've got here fitted to the range-topping Hilux Invincible model. Either way, you'll get from 0 to 60 in around 12 seconds, and there's a hefty 343 newton meters of torque, enough, depending on the version you choose, to deal with a payload of up to 1,100 kilograms and to tow along 750 kilograms unbraked and up to 2,250 kilograms braked. Now, other rivals can better these figures, but they should be quite adequate for most operators who will also appreciate the tight 12.4 metre turning circle. Like most pickups, this Hilux feels much like an old school SUV from a seat behind the wheel on the road. Now, that's mainly due to its solid ladder frame chassis and the utilitarian leaf-sprung suspension that it still needs for the accommodation of heavy loads. And that can mean that the ride can feel rather harsh unless you've a real weight back there to compress things a bit. Either way though, the on-road experience is a world removed from that of previous generation Hiluxes, thanks to the adoption of a modern double wishbone front suspension setup. What hasn't changed is this Toyota's unsurpassed off-road ability. Toyota's Japanese engineers understand, you see, that four-wheel drive isn't much use if you're losing traction through your back wheels, which is why every Hilux features a standard rear differential lock. Plus, there's also the usual ability to shift from high to low range, though in this case you can do it via a shift-on-the-fly high-low lever, rather than the usual but less satisfying button on the dashboard. Now, as a result, it's hard to see much stopping this vehicle if you fitted it with a set of gnarly off-road tyres. So it's just as well that the underbody features protection for really tough off-road work. It'll even wade through waist-high 27.5-inch deep water. Now, with the increase in sales of pickups to buyers who use them as a lifestyle accessory, looks have become a more significant factor with modern vehicles of this type. Now, this one needs a fair bit of dressing up before it's ready to assume any kind of high street cred, but its lines are certainly determined and purposeful. Now, like most pickups, you get the choice of either single cab or, as in this case, double cab body styles, or you can opt for a compromise choice in the form of the extra cab derivative, which offers 2 occasional rear seats. Since nearly 70% of UK buyers choose the double cab, that's the variant that we're looking at here. In the rear passenger compartment, there's a standard back seat space that Toyota reckons will rival that of an upper medium class car. There's certainly very useful storage space under the seat base here. where compartments can conceal, say, tools from prying eyes. It's unfortunate though that the middle passenger on the back seat doesn't get a proper 3-point belt, just this lap belt arrangement. Now at the wheel, this generation Hilux has moved from truck to SUV in both look and feel, especially so if you've opted for this flagship Invincible version, though a height adjustable driver's seat is a notable omission. There's plenty of storage space though, with a lockable glove box and a deep storage container between the front seats. As for storage space where it matters, there's 1 cubic litre with the double cab variant we've got here, a figure that rises to 1.2 cubic litres if you go for the extra cab model, or 1.5 cubic litres if you go for the single cab version. Now there's 1,547 millimetres of load space length in this double cab and 1,100 millimetres between the wheel arches. You've got 450 millimetres of load space height, and those with bad backs like me will need to remember that you've got to lump your items 850 millimetres up in the air to meet the required loading height of the deck here. Hilux prices start at around the £15,000 mark, with the double cab variants that most customers will probably want retailing in the £17,000 to £21,000 bracket. Now in terms of comparisons, Toyota appear to have done their sums well. As far as list prices are concerned, a Hilux should save you up to £1,000 over the cost of a comparable Ford Ranger or Nissan Navara. And though a base entry-level Mitsubishi L200 might save you a little at the bottom end, you'd have to put up with a feebler 134 brake horsepower engine. Whether you choose your Hilux in single cab, extra cab with the 2 occasional rear seats, or full 5-seater double cab form as we're testing here, it'll come reasonably well equipped. All models feature manual air conditioning, a CD stereo, electric windows, remote central locking, driver and passenger airbags and ABS as standard. All variants also get four-wheel drive with Toyota's ADD auto disconnect differential, while the top of the range Invincible that I've got here also features a limited slip differential to enhance its on and off-road handling prowess. There's a 5-speed manual gearbox as standard, and in this Invincible there's also the option of a 5-speed automatic. For a vehicle of this size and weight, a 34 miles to the gallon showing on the combined cycle isn't really a bad result, and the 219 grams per kilometre CO2 figure is easily the best in class, even if that won't get you on the Greenpeace Christmas card list. The 20,000 mile or 2-year service intervals are far less frequent than you'd have to put up with owning, say, a Ford Ranger, and you also get a longer 3-year 60,000 mile warranty. Now, as you probably already know if you're a potential buyer, because pickups are classified as commercial vehicles, they attract a low benefit-in-kind rating from the taxman, despite the fact that they offer pretty much all the comforts and space of an ordinary family car. Now, that tax loophole has closed in recent years for employees, but continues for the self-employed, who can, of course, also, if registered, claim back the VAT on the purchase price. With an engine range that is at last worthy of the design excellence it exhibits in other areas, Toyota's Hilux is now impossible to ignore if you're searching for a tough, capable and likeable pickup. Other models may be a little more stylish, but few are tougher, and none can match this model's off-road prowess. From Alaska to the Sahara to the Australian outback, this is the vehicle of choice for people who need to get the job done. Drive one and you can see why.